So for that, there is no limitation on the size of the non-preemptive issue. And the price has to be with a willing buyer and a willing seller. And that has to be based on a fair value. Now, fair value is rather difficult to define. But if you go back 5 years and you do a volume-weighted average for 5 years, it is well below 100. 4 years is well below 100. 3 years is well below 100. 2 years is well below 100. 1 year is well below 100. Year to date is around 100. But if you look at the last 1 month or 2 months, it may be 120, 130, 140. And then, of course, there's an independent valuation that is done to determine the price. And I'm sure the investor and the controlling shareholder must have done that. But it is still 50% higher than the OWK conversion price of 80 rupiah.
Okay.
You all are analysts, so you can do your arithmetic for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah. So about that, Andreas will ask more questions to you, Mr. Dilip. A lot of curiosity.
Lots of questions, sir. Long time no see, Pak Dilip. Thank you so much for coming, Pak. I have several questions, of course, that I brought today. So regarding the, I would say, what's so-called a roadmap for Bumi to become a zero debt company. So why, Pak? Why do you want to be a zero debt company, and why it has to be now?
Can you name me one bank which is willing to lend to the coal sector?
It's very hard, Pak, to name you a bank that would lend.
So what should a company do? Should it retain the debt or repay the debt?
Of course, it's better to repay the debt.
If somebody is willing and sees potential and is willing to put in $1.5, $1.6 billion to erase your debt, and then sees potential in the existing business, because we are not growing that business. We are trying to make that business more efficient without interest and cost reductions. And then invest into the greener areas, which is what is the international and national priority. We think that is about the best way we can go, because there is no other option available to us. And as I mentioned earlier, that if we do not do this before the 11th of December, we run into a default, and which is not good for any stakeholder, whether it is the lender or whether it is the shareholder. Definitely not for the people. So we are protecting the shareholder interest, we are protecting our stakeholder interests, and we are grateful to the controlling shareholder to get us another opportunity to revive ourselves, to rejuvenate ourselves, and to become the kind of company with the vision that we have planned for the next 10, 20 years.
Okay.
And I think there was another question about the roadmap. Let me tell you that we have employed the services of Boston Consultancy Group, and they're working on a 10-year program for us on our strategic direction and identification of projects. And we are looking also at preparing an energy transition plan between now and 2050 to move on to the greener areas.
Okay. I'll probably translate it to bahasa for our audiences ya, Pak. So ini benar-benar bagus banget. Nah, jadi kita udah tahu kalau misalnya sebentar lagi kan akan ada RUPS juga untuk menyetujui non-preemptive rights issue-nya Bumi, dan plan mereka tentu setelah bayar utang ini juga mereka udah siapin roadmap yang cukup panjang banget sampai 2025 tadi ya, bersama konsultan dari BCG juga. Jadi benar-benar ini kita sembari membayar utang buat tentunya membuat perusahaan semakin efektif juga, dan nanti ke depannya masih ada nih plan-plan ke depannya buat 2025. Could you probably give us a bit color, sir, about your plans going forward? Probably you would like to seek an investment in a non-coal asset, or probably ramp up your productions from the operating KPC and Arutmin.
See, there are three areas that we would focus on. As I mentioned before, the coal business will remain our cash cow. So we've got to make it as efficient as we can. But we are not investing in new capacity. So essentially, our effort will be to reduce cost, to improve the quality of the coal so we can get a higher price, and keep the DMO, keep the government supplied with coal, and to export as much as we can. And if the weather is good, maybe we can do even more. So the profitability angle we want to sustain and improve from our existing business. The second one is we are invested into two companies. One is in the metal space, which is BRMS, which has already announced its plans on gold, and they plan to get into zinc as well in there. We think that offers us potential. So for our 20% stake, it is already worth about, maybe $500 million or $600 million to us, but it is still undervalued. We think that that is not mentioned or that is not included in the valuation of our shares by the market. I think there's a potential there. Then we also have a 23% stake in Dharma Henva, which is a mining operator. They are currently in coal, but they're also planning other businesses as well, in metals and others. We are hoping to make them more efficient. After all, they are dependent more or less on our business. But we think that they can diversify, and we can start getting contributions from them as well over the next 2-3 years. The third one is that at KPC, we have already announced a coal downstream project into methanol. Now, it could be with an international partner. It is on a build, own, operate basis. And the transfer angle we can look at later, nearer the time of commissioning. So it will be project funded. And at this point of time, our equity in the project is really supply of coal. And once the project is nearing completion, then we can take a more informed view on what kind of investment position we can take in that apart from just supplying coal. A similar project is planned for Arutmin, where it is undergoing feasibility studies. Now, in KPC and Arutmin, now they have large tracts of land where we also reclaim land. So not only are we replanting and reclaiming and regreening, we are also looking at the possibility of putting up solar panels there to generate power for ourselves. And maybe at a later stage offer hybrid power consisting of solar as well as what we produce for our captive purposes, and offering them to PLN on the grid and making that a revenue opportunity. We are also in dialogue with overseas parties with regard to solar. Whether we can put up farms or whether we can, work in collaboration with them for a larger quantity of renewable power that we can make. The other options we are examining are blue and green energy projects. If it's blue, we can utilize some of our coal, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's ammonia or that kind of thing. We are looking at the feasibility and the rates of return. And the other one that we could be looking at, we are already in the metal space in BRMS. We could be looking at another project in the minerals and the metals area. And all these investments would require power, and maybe we can use some of our coal for the power plants and present our green credentials through the new products that we will be making. Now, that's what our plan is. And that's where BCG is helping us with regard to identifying projects, working out the feasibility, etc. The biggest challenge, as you know, really is regulation. I'm not saying it's a challenge, but definitely it needs definition. Now, if you look at any renewable project across the world, there's always some incentive given by governments, to promote it. So if the policy on incentivizing whether it is coal downstream projects, whether it is other green projects, whether it is solar and others, if that gets more clearly defined, then I think we can also work on more attractive internal rates of returns where we can attract investors and partners, and also be able to project it as an earning proposition for people to invest in. So our attention actually is going in all these areas. And as you know, the Bakri family is the controlling shareholder now with a very strong affiliate. Now, the president director is Aga Bakri. He is the eldest son of Mr. Nirwan Bakri. And we have a commissioner who's Andhra Bakri, who's the second son of Mr. Bakri. And you know that Anand is already in BNBR, and they already have green credentials, and they're going for electric vehicles and going for projects in that direction. So at a group level, we are combining synergy to see what best we can do to upgrade ourselves in the green space. And if the family is involved here and making the company relatively debt light or debt free, basically, I think the signal we are giving is that the company has some major plans in the offing. And they would like to leave a legacy for the next generation. So we are trying to build a future for Bumi. We are trying to develop our vision. We are defining and implementing our mission statement. And to move where we want to be in 2050 in two stages. One is in 10 years, and then what do we do after the next 10 or 20 years? So it will also give us time to assess what is the policy available on incentivization, what, certainty on government regulation. And it will also let us know what is happening on the Russia-Ukraine situation, whether China and Taiwan will become an issue, whether China and US will become an issue, whether India-Pakistan will become an issue, whether India-China will become an issue. Now, it'll give us some time to reflect on where the global economy is heading. Because right now, energy transition is taking a backseat to energy security. Everyone is looking for energy security first before looking at energy transition. What we are doing is both. And as Indonesia has a lot of coal, so they're pretty secure on coal. They produce 600, but they consume 150 and they export 450. Now that 450 is available to the government for use domestically. And what the government is doing is it is incentivizing value addition projects, whether it is in the CPO space, whether it is in the metal space, whether it is in the nickel space, whether it is in the copper and gold space. So that is also what we want to do. We want to get into value-added projects where we can burn coal cleaner, maybe even looking at the feasibility of carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or maybe looking at ways on how you can capture carbon cheaper. And we are examining qualities like that because we think it is very important for Indonesia to prolong the life of coal, because that is the only resource that the country has. It does not have enough oil. It does not have enough gas. So our coal downstream projects are really to help the nation to reduce their dependence on imported oil, because from methanol, you can get into diesel. And from DME, which PTBA is doing, you can get into LPG. So it reduces your dependence on imported fuels. And that is what the nation needs. So we hope that that would get recognized and there could be incentivization on that as well.